In a move no one saw coming, Queen Camilla issued a private yet unyielding written directive just minutes ago, firmly halting Meghan Markle's rumoured return to royal duties. This wasn't a whisper behind closed doors. It was cold, calculated, and signed in ink. The tension within palace walls has exploded. What exactly did this letter contain, and why now? Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The letter, palace insiders confirm, was entirely handwritten by Queen Camilla herself, an unusual break from protocol in a world that values vetted statements and typed briefings. This wasn't a slip of royal ink, it was deliberate. A private courier, one trusted with the utmost discretion, was dispatched to deliver the envelope directly to the desks of senior aides. The royal stamp was intact, the seal unbroken. The message inside, however, shattered illusions. Camilla's words were chilling in their finality. Meghan's return is not sanctioned nor welcomed by this office. It was as if the Queen Consort had drawn a curtain shut permanently. What's more shocking is that neither King Charles nor Prince William were informed before the delivery. The directive landed first in the administrative halls of Buckingham, bypassing traditional routes and blindsiding those at the heart of royal operations. Within hours, whispers swept through the royal corridors. By the time William's team got their hands on the letter, Meghan's quiet plans for a potential return, one whispered about through tentative charity invitations and soft landing events, had been stamped out like a spark in dry grass. For months, Meghan had reportedly been exploring the idea of returning in some minor but symbolic capacity, not as a working royal, but as a representative for causes still dear to her. Discussions were quietly initiated with charity heads. Her team coordinated tentative contact with palace intermediaries, and a soft approach was being crafted. But with the arrival of Camilla's letter, that door was slammed shut. Meghan wasn't just excluded, she was erased from the equation entirely. Those close to Camilla claimed the letter had been in preparation for weeks, perhaps months, that every word was weighed, that it was in essence a declaration of final authority. It was not a collaborative royal response, it was Camilla, and Camilla alone, deciding who re-enters the fold. And in that decision she made herself not merely queen by title, but queen in power. The impact was immediate. Aides called emergency meetings. Schedules were scrubbed. Meghan's team, blindsided, pulled back on all pending communications. For some in the palace, it was a clean break. For others, it was a declaration of war. But what triggered Camilla to take such a dramatic and final stance against Meghan, and why was this move made without consultation from the king? Sources say Camilla didn't act alone. Her decision to block Meghan's return was not spontaneous. It was whispered through a tightly controlled circle of loyal confidants. Who are these secret voices surrounding the Queen? And what power do they truly wield behind palace gates? For years, Camilla's public image was that of a supportive consort, standing quietly beside the king, smiling for cameras, and rarely showing a flash of personal authority. But behind the gilded doors, a different portrait emerges, one of a woman who has cultivated a private council of influence, a group of long-trusted advisors who don't answer to protocol, but to her alone. These are not palace bureaucrats or ceremonial handlers. These are the voices Camilla trusts when she wants discretion, strategy, and silence. One figure, a former media consultant with ties to controversial royal scandals, is said to have been particularly instrumental in recent months. Their shared history includes managing delicate narratives and, more tellingly, dismantling threats before they escalate. Among them is also a former courtier whose private distaste for Meghan dates back to the Duchess's earliest appearances within the firm. According to those familiar with the inner workings of this group, the friction was immediate, unspoken, but undeniable. Where Meghan brought boldness, this advisor saw recklessness. Where Meghan introduced modernity, they saw disruption. And over time, that quiet tension calcified into something far more strategic, the foundation for exclusion. These advisors, now operating almost as a secondary brain to Camilla's reign, reportedly hold informal strategy sessions outside official palace schedules, private breakfasts at Clarence House, discreet garden conversations at Highgrove, and hushed Sunday evening calls that never make it onto the formal record. It was within this hidden sphere that the fear of Meghan's re-emergence began to crystallize. They didn't just worry about a return, they feared a rewrite. Meghan's presence, her voice, her influence with the public, especially outside Britain, represented something they couldn't fully contain, a narrative they couldn't edit. And the closer Meghan inched toward a charitable engagement on British soil, the louder the alarm bells rang within Camilla's inner circle. One advisor allegedly warned that if Meghan regained footing within royal spaces, the monarchy would lose control of its own reflection. It wasn't just about one woman, it was about message, legacy, and control. Those same voices are believed to have advised Camilla on the tone and language of the now infamous letter. Not legalese, not diplomatic restraint, but something colder, final, a messer. GE that couldn't be softened or misinterpreted. And so, Camilla wrote, not as a queen reflecting the king's will, but as a woman executing the will of her own network. The royal household, once rigid in hierarchy, now appeared to be bending around a new axis. A shadow council had risen, not formally recognized, but increasingly powerful. While King Charles maintained the appearance of monarchy as usual, decisions of enormous consequence were being shaped by whispers, not royal decrees. But while Camilla's circle plotted to control the future, Meghan had already been laying quiet groundwork, and it didn't go unnoticed. Behind the headlines, Meghan had been orchestrating a quiet but powerful campaign of re-entry. Carefully timed appearances, subtle diplomatic overtures, even discussions with certain palace staff. For a moment it looked like the door was reopening, until Camilla slammed it shut. Long before Queen Camilla's letter reached palace desks, Meghan had begun crafting her return not with fanfare, but with strategy. Her team, working behind the scenes, initiated private conversations with charity organizations still affiliated with royal interests, subtly signaling that Meghan was open to collaboration. These were not random outreaches, they were deliberate and targeted, involving causes she had championed during her short but memorable tenure as a working royal. One particular foundation, focused on women's education across the Commonwealth, had quietly re-established contact through a mutual intermediary. The message was clear: Meghan wasn't asking for permission, she was offering value, and some within the royal machinery were willing to listen. At the same time, her public image was undergoing a noticeable recalibration. Gone were the combative tones of past interviews. In their place, a quieter narrative emerged. Thoughtfully curated media segments began to surface, brief appearances, measured language, and an emphasis on forgiveness, healing, and duty. It wasn't accidental. Meghan was repositioning herself not as a disruptor, but as someone ready to step into a more refined diplomatic role. And it was working. Polling data reportedly showed a gradual thaw in public sentiment, especially among younger audiences who viewed reconciliation as a mark of strength, not submission. The most telling sign came when palace sources leaked that Meghan had been in discreet contact with Princess Eugenie and Zara Tindall, two women within the royal fold, known for straddling the boundaries between tradition and modern life. These meetings weren't formal, but they were meaningful. Meghan was building quiet bridges, reigniting personal ties, and according to one aide, testing the waters to see where allegiances might lie. There was even talk, although unconfirmed, of a potential appearance at a high-profile UK charity event slated for the spring. Not as a duchess, not as a royal, but as Meghan, someone still carrying the weight of her title, whether the palace acknowledged it or not. By then, Meghan's team had already begun laying feelers toward royal press offices. The aim wasn't to demand inclusion, it was to gently propose alignment. Early drafts of potential public remarks were circulated privately, ensuring they struck the right tone. Aides within Clarence House and Kensington Palace reportedly expressed cautious optimism that the re-entry could be managed without inflaming tensions. Some even hoped it might symbolize the start of a new chapter. But then came the letter, the curt dismissal, the sudden freeze. What had been a delicately balanced strategy collapsed overnight. Invitations were withdrawn, plans were cancelled. Meghan's team reportedly responded with stunned silence, understanding immediately that this wasn't just a door bane. G closed, it was being bolted, And it wasn't the monarchy as a whole that turned her away. It was one woman. The abrupt halt was more than just protocol. It was personal, rooted in old scars and a rivalry far deeper than anyone dared admit. Their feud was never open but always present. Behind formal smiles and public civility, Queen Camilla and Meghan Markle have clashed in values, influence and vision. And now, with one written letter, Camilla has drawn a line that echoes years of quiet animosity. The earliest signs of tension began long before Meghan officially joined the royal fold. Even during the initial introductions, there was an undercurrent, something unspoken but unmistakable. Camilla, who had fought for decades to reclaim her position within the public's gaze, viewed Meghan's arrival with more skepticism than celebration. To some, it seemed like a generational difference, but those closest to the palace knew better. Camilla saw Meghan's global celebrity, her charisma, her boldness and sensed a disruption. This wasn't just a new duchess. This was a woman who could reshape the institution with the power of her platform alone. During public tours and royal engagements, their differences became harder to mask. While Meghan leaned into candid moments with the press, breaking the royal mold with hugs, speeches and unfiltered warmth, Camilla remained tethered to the codes she had spent years mastering. Meghan brought cameras closer. Camilla preferred a controlled lens. Behind closed doors, there were whispers of awkward exchanges, clashes over event tone, seating arrangements, speech formats. It wasn't explosive. It was cold, strategic, controlled discomfort that settled into the bones of every shared appearance. To Camilla, Meghan's energy was unpredictable. Her instincts leaned modern, media-forward, unorthodox. Camilla, meanwhile, had carefully reconstructed her own role brick by brick, through patience, discretion, and obedience to the system. Meghan's very presence threatened to unravel that. The clash wasn't about personality, it was about purpose. Camilla embodied a monarchy shaped by rules. Meghan represented the possibility of rewriting them. And that possibility, in Camilla's eyes, bordered on rebellion. Over time, their visions for the monarchy's public image grew increasingly incompatible. Meghan pushed for transparency, for mental health advocacy, for emotional vulnerability in an institution built on stoicism. Camilla, loyal to decades of palace conditioning, saw danger in overexposure. The push and pull reached its peak when Meghan and Harry's media interviews began shifting public perception. Suddenly, Camilla found herself recast in a narrative she never controlled, placed under a spotlight she didn't ask for. While Meghan became the face of modern royal tension, Camilla became a symbol, fairly or not, of the old guard resisting change. But underneath it all lay the emotional war over hierarchy and influence. Meghan's appeal wasn't just international, it was intimate. She touched causes, communities, and conversations that bypassed royal gatekeepers. And for Camilla, who had waited a lifetime to be accepted, it felt like legacy was slipping from her grasp. The monarchy was supposed to be predictable. Then Meghan happened. And now, years later, Camilla's written directive didn't just block Meghan's return, it avenged an era of discomfort, rewrote the rules of proximity, and reclaimed control over a narrative she had watched unravel for far too long. But while the rivalry brewed quietly for years, Camilla's letter has awakened deeper divisions in the palace, ones that could now erupt into public crisis. Inside Buckingham Palace, loyalties are being tested. Charles was reportedly caught off guard, and William is, ID to be furious not over the letter, but how it was handled. The monarchy's internal structure is beginning to crack under the strain of Camilla's solo power play. The shock wasn't just in the decision, but in the audacity of its delivery. When Queen Camilla bypassed protocol and issued the directive without consulting the king or senior courtiers, it wasn't just seen as bold, it was perceived as a breach. Charles, long known for his insistence on unity and process, found himself blindsided by a move made in his own household. His closest aides, some of whom had spent decades managing royal tensions with surgical precision, were left scrambling to restore control. For many within the palace walls, it wasn't just Camilla exercising authority, it was a queen acting without a king's blessing. And that realization cut deep. William, meanwhile, is said to be torn. Privately furious but publicly restrained, he walks a fine line between preserving the image of monarchy and defending those he loves. Catherine, always his pillar, remains central to his decisions, and protecting her from the collateral damage of royal wars is his priority. But the deeper crisis lies in perception. William, a future king, was also left out of the loop. Some believe he saw the letter not only as an act of exclusion toward Meghan, but as a dangerous example of Camilla overreaching, consolidating power in silence. His frustration isn't rooted in politics, it's in principle. The monarchy thrives on unity, not surprise attacks. Princess Anne, however, is rumoured to have sided with Camilla, not out of malice, but out of allegiance to order. To her, Meghan's return symbolised chaos, a threat to the structure she has spent her life defending. Anne sees the monarchy not as a fluid concept, but a rigid institution that must resist bending to modern narratives. And so, her loyalty to Camilla in this moment, though quiet, is telling. The old guard is holding the line, even if it means widening the cracks between them and the younger royals. Now, tensions simmer between the camp's traditionalists versus modernizers. Palace staffers are suddenly divided, their communications monitored, their loyalties questioned. And the media? They've begun to feast. Leaks have started seeping from opposing offices, framing one side or the other in calculated drips. One anonymous source paints Camilla as a stabilizing force, another frames her as a shadow monarch acting on fear. The chaos is no longer whispered, it's being written, tweeted, televised. What was once internal has gone viral. Behind it all looms a singular question: who truly holds influence over the king? Charles, for all his stature, now appears isolated in decision-making. His silence in the wake of Camilla's move is either a sign of quiet approval or quiet helplessness. And as trust erodes, those who once worked in lockstep now operate in guarded suspicion. Something fundamental has shifted. The monarchy, long a fortress of unity, is beginning to fracture under the weight of internal rivalry and external perception. Even more explosive is how Catherine, Princess of Wales, has responded quietly, but with unmistakable consequences. Catherine said nothing publicly but within palace walls. Her silence has spoken volumes. Refusing to take sides, yet subtly shifting her alliances, her movements have drawn the attention of everyone. Is the Princess of Wales quietly preparing for a new balance of power? In the aftermath of Camilla's explosive directive, Catherine chose discretion. No statements, no briefings, no outward displays of emotion. But actions speak louder than silence, and within days her calendar changed. A scheduled joint engagement with Queen Camilla was abruptly cancelled without explanation. Whispers emerged that the cancellation was deliberate, not circumstantial. While officials cited scheduling conflicts, insiders knew otherwise. It was Catherine drawing a line, not in defiance but in quiet disapproval. That gesture, though unspoken, reverberated through palace corridors like a warning bell. She would not be part of decisions that carried such cruelty without consultation. Shortly after, Catherine held a private meeting with King Charles. The session, reportedly unscheduled, lasted over an hour. No aides were present, no notes were taken, only speculation remains. Some believe she urged him to intervene, to undo the damage before the monarchy's fractures grew irreparable. Others say she simply voiced concern not over politics, but over principle. Catherine, known for her composure, rarely steps outside the institution's bounds. But this time, she may have leaned against them, even just slightly, enough to signal unrest, enough to make the king pause. And while she remained outwardly neutral, rumours began swirling of quiet reassurances extended to Meghan, not directly, but through trusted intermediaries. A text passed through a mutual contact, a message delivered via a mutual friend. Not to promise resolution, but to offer something far rarer within royal walls: empathy. Catherine, who has herself endured the weight of royal expectation, seemed to understand that the letter wasn't just protocol, it was a wound. And in that recognition, she positioned herself as the royal most in tune with the human cost behind the headlines. Some within the palace believe Catherine was deeply unsettled by Camilla's unilateral move, that while she respects tradition, she values unity more, and in watching the monarchy pit itself against its own, She saw not strength, but vulnerability. Quietly, she began to reshape her own sphere. Staff assignments subtly shifted. Schedules became less reactive, more strategic. Former aides returned. New ones were vetted. One senior source confided, "She's not retaliating. She's reorganizing." And that tells us everything. Even the media noticed the shift. In recent public engagements, Catherine's positioning in official photographs began to change, closer to the king, centered in headlines, highlighted in palace releases. None of it screamed rebellion, all of it whispered realignment. She wasn't declaring loyalty to one camp or the other. She was carving out a space beyond both, one that could bridge or one that could lead. The palace, long governed by visible hierarchy, now hums with unspoken undercurrents. And while Camilla flexes direct authority, Catherine builds a quieter kind, measured, modern, and slowly magnetic. But the true test of her stance may come from across the Atlantic, because while the women navigate their silent war, Harry, far from London, is said to be preparing something far louder and more disruptive. Prince Harry is reportedly furious not just with Camilla's letter, but with the silence of others. Sources claim he's already engaged legal counsel and is planning a targeted media release that could reignite old wounds and unravel recent peace talks. The Sussex storm may be returning. In Montecito, the reaction was immediate and explosive. Those close to Harry describe his mood as volcanic, a fury not born from surprise, but from the final confirmation that reconciliation was never truly on the table. Camilla's letter, in his eyes, was not simply a rejection of Meghan. It was a public declaration that their family remained divided, and that the divide had now been etched into royal parchment. But what sent Harry into a deeper spiral wasn't the letter itself. It was the silence that followed. Charles said nothing. William remained distant. And Catherine, while quietly empathetic, offered no formal response. That void spoke louder than any statement. To Harry, it felt like abandonment all over again. In response, he's reportedly activated his legal team in the UK, revisiting the boundaries of royal confidentiality and exploring exactly how much he's legally allowed to say and show. His calls weren't casual, they were deliberate, strategic. Sources claim he's weighing the release of a new statement, or perhaps an exclusive sit-down interview designed not to create shock but to deliver precision. This time, Harry doesn't want to lash out blindly. He wants to dismantle, methodically. He believes the public has been fed a curated version of palace life, one that erases the personal damage done behind closed doors. And if no one else is willing to speak up, he will. Meanwhile, Meghan is said to be heartbroken but resolved. The letter struck a deeper chord in her, reopening wounds from the darkest days of her royal tenure. But rather than recoil, she's allegedly encouraged Harry to push forward not out of revenge, but as a final act of truth. The couple knows the risks. They've faced them before, but this time they believe silence would be complicity. And in the face of such a cold rejection, they refuse to be silent. More chilling is what Harry may already have in his possession. Insiders whisper about a confidential dossier, a cache of remarks, briefings, and personal communications involving Camilla, collected over the years. None of it released, all of it kept, some of it, reportedly, damaging enough to shake the Queen Consort's carefully constructed image. The timing, the motive, the fallout, it's all being considered. A senior royal advisor, when asked about the possible leak, didn't mince words. If this goes public, the monarchy takes a direct hit. But what Harry intends to do next remains closely guarded. Every move is being calculated with the knowledge that one misstep could rupture what little remains of peace between the Sussexes and the Crown. Yet one thing is clear: Harry's patience has ended, and his silence is no longer a given. The threat of an eruption is real. But as the Sussexes prepare for battle, whispers from Windsor suggest Camilla's directive was never about protocol. It was about protection. Why did Queen Camilla truly act so decisively? Some royal insiders suggest the reason isn't just about Meghan, it's about fear. Fear of the past returning, fear of reputational risk, and fear that one woman could dismantle the quiet power she's built. Is there something else Meghan knows? behind the firmness of Camilla's letter lies something far less composed, a growing unease that Meghan's return wouldn't just challenge royal tradition, but would unearth carefully buried truths. For months there have been whispers that Meghan is in possession of personal letters, written years ago, by a senior royal. These aren't ordinary correspondences. They reportedly touch on subjects that the firm has long tried to shield from public view, fractions within the family, private admissions, and possibly remarks that would shift the public narrative on Camilla's role in the modern monarchy. If these letters exist, and if Meghan holds them, Camilla's letter wasn't simply a rejection, it was a preemptive strike. For Camilla, the stakes are enormous. Her past has never been smooth. The media once savaged her, and it took decades of silence, strategy, and public rebranding to evolve from pariah to queen consort. But that image is fragile, more delicate than the public realizes. Meghan, with her global platform and the world's attention, represents a risk to that reinvention. One public reveal, one interview, one leaked let, and decades of work could unravel in a single news cycle. That's the silent terror behind the composed exterior, not protocol. Preservation. Adding to the tension is the vulnerability of Charles himself. His reign, still fresh, is built on the illusion of reconciliation and unity. But if the past is dredged up, if old wounds are reopened, his legacy could be consumed by scandal rather than sovereignty. Camilla knows this, and she knows that if Meghan re-enters the public royal sphere, even in a soft, charitable capacity, the press will dig. The tabloids will resurface Camilla's history, the documentaries will air again, and all the pain, all the reconstruction of public trust will come crashing back into focus. There are also murmurs of long-sealed royal documents, ones detailing the internal decisions that elevated Camilla's position over time. These files, allegedly shielded by royal privilege, might not stay buried forever. Should Meghan, intentionally or not, redirect public scrutiny back toward those milestones, questions will arise. Was Camilla's rise to queen consort inevitable? Or was it orchestrated behind closed doors with political ruthlessness? The monarchy thrives on mystery. But too much mystery invites suspicion. And that's the last thing the Queen can afford. In the end, Meghan doesn't need to fight to be dangerous. Her power lies in presence, in visibility, in the knowledge that her voice alone can shift the conversation. For Camilla, this isn't just about who returns to the royal stage, it's about who controls the story. By blocking Meghan, she may have sought to preserve more than decorum. She may have been protecting the very architecture of her power and the secrets upon which it rests. And yet, despite all attempts to silence her, Meghan's next step may be her boldest and most public yet. The lines are drawn. With Camilla's letter now ignite, in a full-blown royal rupture, all eyes turn to Meghan's next move. Will she step back or step into the spotlight once more? One wrong move could collapse years of fragile royal diplomacy. The countdown has begun. As news of the Directive exploded beyond palace walls, the global press machine roared to life. Headlines across London, New York, Sydney, and Toronto blared versions of the same question: what will Meghan do now? Camera crews began assembling outside key royal locations, and palace spokespeople were bombarded with round-the-clock inquiries. For the monarchy, this was no longer a private disagreement, it was an international crisis unfolding in real time. With each hour, pressure mounted. Camilla's silence spoke of control. Meghan's silence, however, hinted at something building, something potentially seismic. Inside Montecito, sources say Meghan is actively weighing a televised response. Not a fiery exposé, but a composed and calculated address, one that would reclaim her side of the story while maintaining dignity in the face of rejection. The very possibility has thrown the palace into a defensive spiral. Meetings are being held behind closed doors. Communications teams are split between two approaches: prepare for damage control or attempt to quietly broker peace. Neither option guarantees stability, because if Meghan speaks, especially in the wake of being deliberately blocked by the Queen consort, the optics for the monarchy could be devastating. King Charles now finds himself under intense pressure to act. Whispers from those closest to him suggest he is being urged to privately intervene before matters spiral into chaos. But the king walks a dangerous tightrope. Any direct involvement could signal a lack of confidence in Camilla's authority, further widening the fracture at the top. And yet, his failure to act risks being seen as cowardice, or worse, complicity. For a monarch who has long sought a legacy of unity, the silence is becoming harder to defend. Meanwhile, public sentiment is shifting. Polls show the royal family's base remains divided. Some view Camilla's actions as necessary, a stand for tradition in turbulent times. Others see them as vindictive and petty, reigniting old wounds that had only just begun to heal. Social media is ablaze, with hashtags demanding transparency, justice, and compassion. Supporters of Meghan amplify her message, while defenders of the crown dig in, accusing her of seeking relevance. The result? A nation and a commonwealth watching as its most iconic institution begins to unravel at the seams. And now, perhaps most explosively, come the leaks. Internal sources hint at a final confrontation being arranged, possibly a private meeting between Meghan and senior royals, one last attempt at resolution before the situation explodes on camera. But even this carries risk. The optics, the emotion, the likelihood of information escaping, all of it teeters on the edge of catastrophe. One insider captured the gravity perfectly. This isn't just a family dispute anymore. It's monarchy versus message. The royal clock is ticking, and Meghan's response, when it comes, could rewrite the next chapter of royal history. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.